Have to unmute myself. Can you see and hear me, everybody? Tiff?
We can.
Oh, great. All right. As Steve said, my name's Annette Schmiede. I'm currently the CEO of the Digital Health Cooperative Research Centre. But I have had a long association with the Obesity Collective through my previous role with the Bupa Health Foundation as executive leader. And the foundation was a founding member of the Obesity Collective and was also a long-term supporter of Obesity Australia from when it was established over 20 years ago. I certainly don't need to tell this group of the impact that the condition of obesity has on our health and well-being. It can have serious impacts on people's quality of life and both their physical and mental health. As we know, calling alarm on the impact of obesity and the need for action goes back a number of decades. But it does feel like we are getting closer to 5 minutes to midnight when we see the current statistics and predictions on increasing rates of chronic disease and disability that are closely linked to obesity as the main risk factor driving some of these figures. And in actual fact, this week's Economist, which is just out, reports on a just released Lancet article that reports that over the last 30 years across the world, there has been a doubling of rates of obesity among adults and, more alarmingly, a quadrupling among children. Many poor and middle-income countries are now facing a double epidemic of malnutrition and obesity. All of society is affected, but equity is a major issue, with rates higher in communities with relatively low socioeconomic disadvantage, lower levels of education attainment, and particularly regional and remote areas of Australia affecting our Indigenous Australians. And what we are starting to see, of course, is business models that prey on the most vulnerable. We're seeing even a greater access to highly processed foods, a phone call away and delivered to your door. But we've come to learn that blaming individuals certainly doesn't work and actually sets us back. It has been a major distraction to a broader understanding of those obesity drivers. A recent study by World Obesity found the economic impact of obesity in Australia in 2019 to be $37 billion, or 1.7% of GDP. This is projected to reach $244 billion, or 2.5% of GDP by 2060, if action is not taken. In my current role and as a board member of Obesity Australia, I can continue to work with the Obesity Collective to reinforce the need to work across all levels of Australia's healthcare sector, primary, acute, at all levels, both state, federal. This is not without its challenges, as we know, as we see the complex funding and myriad organisational structures that deliver health services across these state and federal jurisdictions. Delivering coordinated research, prevention and treatment services against this background is very challenging, but we're going to hear more about this today and why we are going to do this. But I'd like to leave a note that national leadership is critical. We can't underestimate the importance of the effective implementation of our National Obesity Strategy. And I'm going to hand on now to our next speaker.